Bill posters will be prosecuted.
Yeah.
He just busted Joel putting up posters on K Road, and he said Bill Posters is an innocent man.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, he is. I am. I didn't do anything.
All right, so here we are, back again, K Road Chronicle, podcasting. Thank you for your support. We've got our latest guest is Joel. Joel's a bit of a character from Karangahape Road.
G'day.
And we pigeonholed him putting up flyers for a band. What's going on? Tell me about your band, Joel.
Oh, so this is actually a group of 5 stand-up comedians.
A band of comedians, though?
Band of comedians,
Is that the correct term?
I don't know what the collective noun is.
A gaggle of comedians.
Oh, yeah, a giggle.
Yeah, a giggle of comedians works good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, a giggle of comedians.
So tell us about your giggle.
So
Giggle gang.
Next Tuesday night at the Wine Cellar, we're running like a new material night.
Wine Cellar, down in St. Kevin's Arcade.
Down in St. Kevin's Arcade,
Legendary.
Yeah, I've been playing music there for a long time, and Rowan, who runs it, is pretty sweet about me putting the odd comedy thing on a Tuesday because it's like a quiet night for them.
Uh-huh.
So it's myself and 4 other comics. I'm Joel Vinsen, Ray O'Leary, who you might know from some TV stuff, Keegan Govan, David Stewart, and Ocean Denham. And we're running sort of like a new material night, so trying out gags for our up-and-coming Comedy Fest shows and
Got
stuff.
a joke for us?
Yeah, I'll give you a joke. I don't actually do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I like to fight with a full bush.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
What's red and invisible?
What's red and invisible?
No tomatoes.
That's a classic, eh? Yeah.
Is that a thing, being a comic? People are always like, tell me a joke.
Yeah, absolutely. So
is that annoying?
Nah, especially not promoting a show, it's good, So then I just kind of have a couple floating around in the top of my mind that work in that format.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, that's always the thing.
What makes a good comedian?
I mean, I guess at a base level it's got to be funny, right?
Well, yeah, but
that's a good start.
Funny's subjective.
Funny is very subjective, yeah. It's a good question. I guess every kind of definite statement, I feel like there's an exception to it. But maybe somebody who can connect with an audience. It's all about communication, eh?
Totally.
Yeah, getting an idea and communicating it in a way that is inclusive for the people listening, and also they feel like they're a part of putting that idea together.
So what's the industry like? What's the market like for comedians? I mean, I know there's the comedy club down on Queen Street, the Classic. There's a few places doing comedy, but God, I wouldn't want to be a comedian in this day and age. It's like so hard to tell a joke without offending somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are heaps of people around that are real funny that kind of do it without offending anyone too much. You've just got to pick your battles,
jokes. Yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah, I like stupid jokes as well. Industry-wise, I mean, there's not many people that will do it full-time.
Are you making money out of it?
Nah, not really. I have the odd kind of semi-professional gig where I might make $100 or $150, but not regularly enough to sort of support myself on that.
Is that where you want to be, like doing it professionally?
I reckon that would be great as part of my income if I didn't have to compromise. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I've played music my whole adult life, and when I've been...
When you say play music, DJing or...
I went to jazz school and played in jazz bands and original bands and stuff.
Wow, we should get you around home for a jam session.
Yeah, what's your music act?
Oh, at the moment I play in an Afrobeat band called Ajibu Pleasure Club.
What's Afrobeat?
It's like a Fela Kuti sort of covers band.
Oh, I love Fela Kuti. Yeah,
Afrobeat's like
I
real...
have no idea who Fela Kuti is.
Water, what's the one of water?
Water
Get No Enemy. Yeah. What's the name of your band again? I didn't catch that.
Ajibu Pleasure Club.
Ajibu,
yeah.
Pleasure Club, nice.
So yeah, I do a bunch of music stuff, but in my experience, like just if I'm trying to earn money just off performing, a lot of it ends up being stuff I don't really want to be doing, like weddings or corporates.
Okay.
So it's always a fine line. Like I teach guitar in high schools, and for me, I'm real happy having that baseline income, and then I'm not having to do shit gigs that I don't want to do, I guess.
So that's the key. That's the key. Have a anchor career.
Yeah.
Teaching guitar, and then build your comedy shit.
Yeah, you got. It's in my experience doing art stuff in New Zealand, it's good if you have some sort of like something that will pay your expenses that's not too stressful and leaves you with some energy to do stuff outside of it. So,
why do you think, as Kiwis, or maybe it's a global thing? I mean, I'm not very international, but why is there this kind of perception that artistic endeavours are not worth money? And I mean, I struggle to just keep the Chronicle afloat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not making anything out of what I'm doing. So, why is it that artistic endeavour is not valued here?
That's a good question, eh? I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's because. I mean, there are many reasons. Part of it's a very human thing to make art and do creative stuff, so it's very enjoyable. So you have
it's the nature of the beast, eh?
Yeah, and it's not like something that you have to have a qualification to do. So you have people at all levels doing it, and
so because it's fun, people are like, you're just having fun.
Yeah, totally.
A job's supposed to be serious. You're not supposed to enjoy it. Like,
yeah, it's just an unregulated
it's not a career if you're having fun.
Totally, yeah. There's that, and it's kind of just like an unregulated mess of people doing stuff, which is great, I guess. And it's like, I don't know. It's just a hard thing to convince people to pay money for. Plus, nobody's got shitloads of money to spend at the moment. Eh?
True. Did you start playing music in your band and then talking into the microphone to the audience, and then they're laughing, and then you realize, oh shit, actually, maybe I could be is that how you got into comedy?
Nah, how I got into comedy is I've been playing music my whole life in heaps of different bands and stuff. And eventually I was like, I need a hobby outside of it, because every time I tried to have a hobby, I'd like try and play banjo or try and build a guitar pedal. I needed something else. And then I started doing improv, which I still do some improv. And then from that I tried stand-up because I wanted to try it, and I just ended up really, really enjoying it. And I've been doing that heaps over the last couple of years.
Have you had any real bad gigs?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Tell us about one.
So there's a gig at the Fitzroy in Ponsonby, and I think just before Christmas I did one of the Tuesday nights, and I was the last person on. And it's an open mic, right? So you're trying stuff, and I've got this kind of bit, which is like a 6-minute long bit, and it splits a room. Like, people either really like it or they don't like it. On that night they didn't like it, and like not only were they like not laughing, by the end of it I think they all actively didn't like me. And it's just you can't get good at it without eating some shit sometimes.
Right, you could try it out.
Look,
see what works.
I've done a little bit of stand-up myself, and like a couple of times it went really well. I had the crowd eating out of my palm.
Yeah.
But then the same material on a different night, and like, you know what I think it was? I think it was me. I think it was my delivery.
Yeah.
That just kind of like, I was bored with my material.
Yeah.
So I think, and it's like, I mean, a good script you can take out and do it over and over and over again. A good script comes across as, very fluid.
Yeah.
But, sometimes it just doesn't work, eh?
Oh, there's so many things in it, eh? And it's also like, it's a skill learning to figure out how to adapt or make it work. Like, sometimes, like Keegan, who's on the show, is a really, really good comic, and he always says his kind of strategy is like connect with the audience and then be funny. And you want to get the connection done real quick, so that like they're on. They've got to be at a space they kind of want to hear what you're saying and are on board with it. And it's an interesting thing, like doing heaps of open mics and seeing people running the same material, and some nights it can just be amazing, and other nights it'll fall flat. There's so much that goes into it. It can be like the amount of people in the room, like the lighting,
how many drinks they've had.
I've had think like I've been at the Classic before, and I've walked out and just said g'day, and they've all just cracked up. And then other times
You're
I've
so
just,
funny, Joel.
Other times I've just worked my ass off trying to get them on board, and they're just not having it, eh? So it's just there's so many like. But yeah, when I said g'day and they cracked up, it wasn't me. It's just just a crowd that's real up for comedy.
Yeah.
Other times, it's
yeah.
I find that when I'm hosting karaoke or whatever, it's like once you get the crowd warmed up, you can pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
And they're into it. But that first 30 seconds, that first minute or two, that's crucial, eh?
Absolutely, yeah.
What's your advice to somebody in Auckland who's thinking about trying stand-up?
So I reckon join the Auckland Comedy Community Facebook page. That's where open mic spots are posted. Get up and try it, and just give yourself like 10 goes at it. So don't be put off if you have a shit one.
Be prepared to fail.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're not gonna, if you do it, I think I'm up to like 410 gigs or something now, and like a lot of, like, I mean, if you're not bombing or eating shit, sometimes you're doing it wrong. You should be trying stuff out and.
You should be like experimenting,
absolutely,
pushing the envelope a little bit.
Like I feel like if I'm doing something 10 times and it works every time, then I want to change it and try it from a different angle, or drop it for the moment to keep something new going, and then just bring out the best material on a show that's sort of more important. But yeah, my advice to anyone new doing it is just give it, like, talk to people and just give it a crack. And
how many stand-up places are there, like, on a week?
There's probably like a gig most nights that are
really?
an open mic. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So
that's a lot.
Yeah, there's heaps. There's like the Classic has gigs Wednesday to Saturday. I run an open mic at Win Bar in Ponsonby every Sunday night on 7:30, and then Tuesdays there's like Il Bruto, which is I think Victoria Street West, and Ding Dong Lounge has a mic on Tuesdays. Wednesdays is Reverie in Ponsonby. There's like stuff all week. So
yeah, but like. It's one thing to be funny with your mates.
Yeah.
You know, we've all got that mate that's constant crack up.
Thank you.
Cheers, Ben. But, you know, put them on stage, can't do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's very lonely up there on stage, eh?
Absolutely. I've definitely had that realization. Like, I'm definitely funnier at improv or in person than stand-up. It took a while to get it to work. Because I think a lot of in person with your mates' humour, it's reactive. So someone might say something and you just think of something quickly. And part of the funny is that it's in the moment. And
it's not scripted.
No, but then sometimes when I've remembered things I've said that were funny and then tried them on stage and they just haven't quite worked. It's an interesting thing. It's like a different way of communicating.
Totally. It's a real study. I mean, comedy is really hard because it's quite subjective. And like these days, it's so hard to be a comedian without being dirty, without being sexist, without being racist, without offending anybody.
Yeah.
And still being funny.
I mean, you can definitely come to the show. I think we're pretty like... I think we're all funny. It's not offensive in terms of being sexist or racist. If you don't like sex material or dark material or things, you probably won't be into it. It just
gets boring when comedians get up there and go, you know what the problem with the woman is blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's been done a million times.
It's kind of like, don't punch down, right?
Yeah, hard.
You can make fun of someone else, but not belittling them, you know, that you think you're better or something they can't control, you know.
I mean, I think a lot of comedy is like can be self-deprecating.
Yeah.
At least from some, even if you have a high status as a character. So maybe like if you listen to James Acaster, his kind of whole, he's a very kind of successful English comic. His whole shtick is that his character thinks he's like the coolest person in the room, but he's not. He's just a bit kind of weird and a bit off, and that's like the funny thing about it.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting point. When people kind of. Like, because there's a lot of different styles of comedy, and some people get up there, they're just themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they're just doing, and then some people create characters.
Yeah.
And they perform
Andy Kaufman
through that character. So, how would you describe your own comedy?
Pretty alternative. So quite deadpan. Some of us maybe a little
Isn't that a Kiwi thing, deadpan?
Yeah,
So
I think
Kiwi.
Reasonably. I mean, there's a lot of people that'll be quite high energy. So there's more people that are high energy than a deadpan, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's just because I'm just like thinking of Flight of the Conchords. And that's like their thing. Maybe they must be the most famous Kiwi
and
stand-up.
they're real deadpan and real funny, eh? But yeah, I got a lot of like alternative props comedy. Political stuff.
Props?
Props. Like using... I've got a big political, but using squeaky toys. And when I started, I was doing a lot of anti-comedy, like playing like the character who's just bombing and... and I still really like that a lot.
I love anti-jokes.
Yeah, anti-jokes and
What'd the farmer say when he couldn't find his tractor?
What did he say when he couldn't find his tractor?
Where's my tractor?
I like that sort
What
of thing
do
as
you
well.
call somebody who used to like tractors, but now doesn't like tractors?
Not sure.
An ex-tractor fan.
Yeah, I like all those
Yeah,
jokes.
okay.
Yeah.
What's worse than finding a worm in your apple?
Finding half a foot.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I was going to say cancer, but that's also bad.
Yeah, that's good.
So this thing you're doing at the wine cellar, is it like a recurring thing, or is this a one-off kind of?
At the moment, it's just a one-off gig. Hopefully, it'll be like a semi-regular new material night.
What's the name of it?
It's called Fresh Gags.
Fresh Gags.
This coming
Nice.
Tuesday, the 24th, 7:30 p.m. $10.
Sweet.
You got to have a Jacinda joke now because she just resigned today.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing, eh? Far out. Yeah, I don't have any. I have to have a think about it.
Yeah. That's going to be
Someone will
like,
come up with something.
yeah, fuck you.
So if people were interested in like hearing more, do you have a YouTube or do you have any social media where people can find you?
I guess, yeah, you could just, if you go on Instagram, it's Vol Jinsen is my Instagram, which is VoelJinsen.
All right, check it out, people.
This is kind of my personal Instagram too, so it's not all comedy, but a lot of it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I see you almost every day on Karangahape Road.
Yeah.
What's your connection to our community?
I live just down the road, and I've been like making art or doing gigs and stuff here for years, music and putting shows on and stuff. And yeah, it's just my favourite part of Auckland. I'm living here at the moment, and
Yep.
yeah.
What do you like about it?
What do I like about it? I like that it's just like an interesting place to people watch. I like that there's like a shitload of venues for arts and cultural stuff, like
Stand-up comedy.
yeah, stand-up comedy. There's good music scene, heaps of cool places to eat and hang out. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just,
Nothing really compares in the the rest of Auckland.
yeah, it's definitely absolutely for me. It's my favourite sort of part of Auckland, especially in terms
Sixth
of art
coolest
stuff.
street in the world.
Yeah, I saw that. Eh?
Do you know how many strings I had to pull to get it made the sixth coolest street? They were going to make it the second coolest street. And I was like, no, make it the sixth coolest street. And then I can like take credit for it.
Yeah.
So you had to pull 6 strings.
Oh, pulled strings, bro.
Excellent. Thank you. I think K Road appreciates it.
I'm here for K Road, man. That was pretty cool, though, getting named the sixth coolest street. Eh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of though, like censorship and comedy and that, do you think there is like a line in comedy where you shouldn't joke about certain things? Or is it a place where really you should, everyone who's entering the room is agreeing that they're jokes and what's being said is supposed to be taken like in a
I
lighthearted...
think it depends on context, eh? Like, I think intent is important. I also think for people, comedians trying to do edgier things, like, it requires a lot of skill and time doing it, you know? Like, I wouldn't recommend...
Look, the
that.
best comedians, like, I mean, Jim Carrey, Andy Kaufman, they spend a hell of a lot of time actually studying like comedic structures,
Absolutely.
researching, whereas I think a lot of comedians out there are just kind of like, well, this is funny, I'll learn as I go, whereas there are courses and performance courses, because you're giving a performance, you're giving a monologue, and it's very lonely up there on stage. So, you've got to, like, you spoke briefly before about connecting with the audience. That's so important. So, how do you do that?
I guess for me, my approach is I'll speak quite slowly and I'll leave a lot of space, and often I'll open with a joke that's maybe like a bit of a shaggy dog story or a little bit of an anti-comedy thing. And I guess the intention behind that is to be like, I think like speaking slowly and leaving space straight away draws people in.
Oh, space, like that dramatic pause.
Yeah, like
it
just
gives people that option. Oh, it's like, oh, this is where I laugh.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's just a contrast because I think a lot of people are quite high energy, so I will make a point of being a little bit different and just sort of sit in it. And you want to,
And you can stretch your time out too.
Totally. And yeah, it's good for like making like one joke last for the space of 4 or something. But yeah, very much trying to give like you want to make them feel safe with you, that you're gonna like, because everybody there wants to laugh and have a good time.
Yeah.
So you want to make them feel safe, like knowing, okay, this person on stage is gonna take it somewhere that's gonna be like funny, and I can just relax, because it's actually like really uncomfortable seeing something not going well as an audience member. It's almost more uncomfortable for an audience member than the person on stage, to a certain way of thinking, I reckon. Like you can feel it in the room if someone's having a real bad bomb. It's uncomfortable for everybody.
But some people, like I've seen comedians, and they can bomb, but it's still hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Bombs are real funny sometimes, eh? So
What do you do? Like, what do you do when your mates are up there on stage and like they come off stage and they're like, "Fuck, I'm never doing this again, bro. It's too hard." It's like, it's like you just. I mean, I know what it's like when you have a great night and you get on that performer's high.
yeah.
But when things don't go well, how do you pick yourself up after that?
I guess you just got to learn to get through it. I mean, everybody deals with it so regularly that eventually it's not a problem. I've got a mate who's quite new to it, and she's really good already, and she had it was actually quite a good gig. She like forgot a couple of things and was feeling quite bad about it, and it's just like it's like you have to do it. It happens at some point. You just got to get it out of the way. The more of them you want to get to the point it doesn't bother you, so the more of them you have.
10,000 hour rule.
Yeah, absolutely. The more
I
of them you
heard
have, the
Norm
better.
Macdonald, every time he bombed, after the set, he'd go outside and he'd like shake everyone's hand who walked out, be like, "Hey, thanks for coming," like, and every time he did really well, he'd just fuck off.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Remember me, the comic you hated?
Yeah. Make it more awkward.
yeah.
Who are the local comedians that you really respect and admire?
I reckon the first person that always springs to mind is Brendan Lovegrove, who's been around
Legend.
for a long time. He's probably one of the funniest, if not the funniest comedian in the country, and he's real generous with his time in terms of making himself available to newer
He's such a nice
comics.
guy. I've met him a couple of times on K Road, and it's like he's just so down to earth, really nice guy. Always got time.
You're saying we should get him on the podcast?
Yeah, you get him on the podcast if he's around and keen. Yeah, but yeah,
That's
he's
not impossible.
He's just great because he's so like good as a new person. He's the kind of one like pro person that is just really in the scene and talks to all the newbies and gives advice and is helpful, and he's really funny. There's so many good comedians around. I really David Stewart, who's on the show, is a mate of mine, is a really, really funny comic who's quite new to it and new to New Zealand because he came from Scotland. I find him real funny. Guy Montgomery's fantastic. I really like Angela Dravid. There's heaps and heaps of good comedians around.
Great. The scene's thriving then? Is it doing well?
Yeah, it's a pretty good scene. There's heaps of funny people around.
Just not making money.
I think, a lot of the people at the top level, like those people will be making money. Some of them will be doing TV or...
Population's a little bit low in New Zealand. Maybe it's hard to go on a tour when you've been through all the major cities in under a week.
Yeah, I think Ray O'Leary's got a tour coming up through New Zealand, which I'm sure it'll do pretty well because he's got a pretty good profile. He's real funny, and it's like once people have seen him, they'll go back.
Oh, yeah.
So I think
Jimmy Carr's doing one now too, actually. He's going through all the small towns.
Heaps of internationals coming out at the moment as well.
I love Jimmy Carr. He's so deadpan.
He's real funny.
Oh, he's real dark. I always thought it was great though, because I play music too, and trying to get a crowd, and you put up these posters like I just saw you doing, and then you bring in the drummer's kit, you bring in your amps, and it's all this big organization to get your guitars and your pedals and all that shit, and pay the sound engineer and pay the bouncer, all this stuff. And there's 5 or 4 of you in the band. You got to split that, and then I look at the comics. I'm like, it just turns up with a microphone, or maybe there's already one. Like you just fucking rock up, and how good is that?
It's a lot less hassle.
Yeah.
I'm pretty over carrying music gear around. Like it's nice just turning up and just walking on stage. So. Yeah.
But bear in mind, a comic's going to do 10 or 15 minutes, whereas a band's going to do like 2 hours.
I don't know. Like, don't some comics do longer sets? Like once you get established, you want about an hour, right?
Yeah, once you get established, people will be doing an hour, but that'll be at a sort of specific show, I guess. At the level I'm at, where I'm sort of like an open mic comic, and I'm doing some more sort of like semi-pro gigs sometimes. So I'm sort of doing a lot of 6-minute spots and sometimes 10 or 15.
What if I hired you for a corporate gig for the K-Road Chronicle anniversary? How long could you go for?
We have no budget.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely. You'll get what you pay for. I could do.
You're just rolling on the stage, drunk, screaming in the mic.
That's K-Road style.
Vomiting,
piss on the microphone.
I could do. I've got like 20 to half an hour. I think I could do like a half an hour set.
Right.
If it was a
you
corporate,
slow it down. 45.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a corporate gig, I could do 10 minutes, I think. A lot of my material won't
but
go
you've
down
done
well.
400 shows. So is this because you want to keep doing new material? You don't want to do the stuff you did at show number 20?
I think some of the stuff I do is like not always that palatable for people that would be doing on corporate gigs, you know? Some of it is. Yeah. So I've got some jokes like that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu one or something, which will probably work for most people most of the time. Yeah. But then some of the stuff is not like going to go down that well in a corporate environment, I don't think.
So what if you got a book of jokes and you're like, oh, that's going in the general section, or this is going in the dark section?
Yeah, kind of just generating material all the time and being like, this is appropriate for this gig or what have you.
What is your process how do you come up with jokes?
It's a good question. Just thinking about stuff. Sometimes I'll just sit down. Like I've got an ideas document in my Google Docs, and I'll just put anything I think of in there. And it might be something even that's just interesting and not funny yet, or whatever. And then I'll sit down and just sort of try and write on a concept for a while. Like at the moment, I'm working on a bunch of stuff, and I'll have a Google Doc and just sort of get the concept and sit down and brainstorm and try and find an angle. And
do you have mates that you kind of bounce off? You know, you get together, have a few drinks, and
because you can't just write it, can you?
You can't just write what?
You can't just write. You've got to actually like say them.
Yeah, definitely. There's many approaches to it. Absolutely. Like, so if you listen to like a short joke comic, like someone like Jimmy Carr, I'd say he pretty much delivers those pretty similar most of the time, right? So there's not like a word out of place.
Right.
You know, it's very
those solid one-liners.
Like Mitch Hedberg's.
Mitch Hedberg.
I love Mitch Hedberg.
Great,
I have not slept for 4 days because that would be too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too.
Yeah. That joke there specifically is a great example because if you were to take anything out of it, it wouldn't be as funny. Like, but I used to too. If you said I used to too, or if you said I used to, it wouldn't work. But it's like the way he's like, I used to too. It just makes it. Yeah. So there's little things that it can be so specific on detail. So you have. So I mean, it's different for every joke and every person, but some people will kind of be more ad lib or free form.
Yeah.
I've got both. You know, I've got stuff I write out pretty specifically and then play around with the timing, and I've got stuff that I kind of more like wing a little bit, but I know where it's going and stuff. So
I think what people don't realise when they go to a show and they're in the audience, it sounds free flowing. It sounds like you're just kind of up there making it up as you go. But the best shows are actually highly scripted.
Yeah, I think for the most part, you will get some people that can wing like an hour. I mean, well. I think it's very rare that someone will go on stage for an hour and not know what they're going to talk about. They might just say it in a different way a little bit, but they know where the punchlines are and the progression in the narrative.
Yeah, I like some guys like Doug Stanhope. Who just like go on telling this crazy story, and it just gets weirder and weirder. I'm like, I don't even know if it's comedy. It is. It's hilarious, but it's just like a storyteller maybe more than actually a joke deliverer.
Yeah, I mean, I think people will categorize comics into different things, like a joke teller, a humorist, or a storyteller. For me, it's just if someone's funny, and I like hearing different ways of doing that. Doug Stanhope very much sounds more like a stream of consciousness sometimes,
Yeah,
but I think it's also very calculated. Yeah.
What's funny to me that I've noticed in the last few years with people like Doug Stanhope and such is they're like more kind of political commentators, whereas the politicians these days are becoming more like jokes. You know what I mean?
It's true, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, some politicians are just like unintentionally funny, like David Seymour or like Judith Collins,
Simon Bridges.
Simon Bridges. All three of those are people that can classically
get Simon Bridges
ripped to bits and comedian.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I used to write for a paper in Tauranga, Sun Media, who can kiss my ass. But I spent a lot of time interviewing Simon.
Shout out to Sun Media.
Yeah, fuck Sun Media. But Simon Bridges, I mean, I'm more liberal than Simon, but he's a hell of a nice guy. He's really intelligent, and I don't agree with all his politics, but he's the sort of guy you can sit down with and actually have a conversation with.
A simple conversation.
Yeah.
Simple Simon.
Well, anyway, I digress. But what I did want to talk about is like, good comedians are almost like philosophers. They're almost taking things we take for granted.
George Carlin.
And like they're like showing, they're like explaining shit to us, and like the absurdity. Yeah, and it's like, a good comedian not only makes you laugh, but actually makes you walk away going, you know what, that guy's right. That's what I was trying to get at with like the comedians these days are more like politicians. Yeah, they're more like philosophers. Whereas it used to be the other way. You'd have like people like JFK, Martin Luther King and something who were doing these mind-blowing speeches, but I don't feel like you hear that from politicians anymore.
Yeah, I think the
not
last
in New
person,
Zealand anyway.
Last person here I can remember like that was David Longley. David Longley was quite a kind of speaker in that way. I think he was quite charismatic. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think Martin Luther King and JFK would have been great comedians.
Right, imagine if they'd gone the other way.
Yeah, absolutely, because they have that charisma and great speakers and stuff that just learned to be funny, which wouldn't actually be that tricky.
Ask not what you can do for your mother, but what your mother can do for... No, I don't know.
They'd figure it out.
Getting there. Getting there.
Yeah, imagine.
Hey, look, Joel, I really want to thank you for coming on our podcast today.
Legend.
My pleasure.
Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to particularly point out? And we will put links to the show in the comment section below. And, support Joel, support the Cairo Chronicle. But just final words, Joel?
Final words, and part of the motivation for putting on the show is please support our venues. So, like, if you're going out for a drink, go down to the wine cellar and put some money in the bar, I reckon. It put on gigs if you're running gigs at venues. It's like hard times for people at the moment. And please consider coming to our gig on Tuesday. It'll be real fun. And if you do, chuck some money at the bar.
Support our sponsors because they support us.
Yeah, like the wine cellar is such a valuable place for the art scene. Like, it's just the idea that it could not be there would be really awful. So, and I think with the landlord in St. Kevin's, it's hard.
A lot of these clubs have really struggled this last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say that's just a big thing. Like, if you kind of value the arts, like, please, like, support.
Yeah.
It can just be as simple as, like, if you're going out for a drink with mates, just, jump into a venue and have a drink in the bar or something.
And hey, if you are interested in booking Joel for a gig, want to get in touch with Joel, get in touch with us here at the Chronicle.
Yeah, links in description to his Instagram.
Links in description to the Instagram down below. Support the arts, because without the arts, there's no Chronicle, there's no comedy. Life gets pretty dull without us.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you.